Hmm.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll give a couple of more minutes for our invitees to join in, and we'll start our session 2 minutes past 4. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brijesh Mohan, and I head the large enterprise business at ITILITE. A very warm welcome to all of you to the 3rd episode of our fireside chat series, Top Drawer Travel Talks. We really appreciate all of you taking time out this afternoon to attend this live session. Today's discussion is on duty of care, now more than ever. And our host today is Mr. Ashish Kishore, who's advisor to ITILITE and partner at Signature Journeys. Ashish was also previously the MD at Amex GBT and the country head at Donata. An alumnus of the Harvard Business School, and with a career spanning more than 25 years, he's a veteran in the travel industry. So without further ado, I welcome our host for today to take over the proceedings. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you very much, Brijesh, for that lovely introduction. And hello, everybody. As Brijesh mentioned, thank you for joining our session. You know, pandemic has prioritized conversations around sustainability, diversity, safety, and well-being. And good organizations have always valued their employees, put their well-beings before profitability. But in the post-pandemic world, even employees are putting their health and well-being before wages and benefit. And I'm sure you all must be facing similar scenarios in your organizations. This scenario has also increased the emphasis on organizations to ensure that the employees feel safe at workplace and beyond. Travel and its related policies are a key segment for companies to demonstrate that they care about their people. And in the last 2 years, I'm sure that you all would have noticed that travel has become a focal point and in fact, a boardroom conversation. And as the world is opening up, that many organizations have, or if they haven't started, they will start the business travel, which means the physical travel to clients and supplier meetings would begin very soon. There is definitely an element of risk, but then these are essential human-to-human engagements and has to happen. So today in our third episode of Top Drawer Travel Talk, we're going to explore this very critical topic and talk with our esteemed guest, Ms. Anuradha Bharat. She's VP People Operations at Razorpay and has been at the helm of this organization for a very long time. I'm very confident that with her experience of managing pandemic for such a large, fast-growing organization, we're going to take some very good learnings from here. So let me invite my guest. Please welcome Anuradha. Hi,
Thank
Anuradha.
You, Ashish. Hi.
Hi. So why don't let's start with you sharing about your life journey with our audience so that they understand you more.
Sure, Ashish. Firstly, I think it's fantastic to be part of this group, and I'm already beginning to enjoy the conversations here. Ashish and I, we just spent a few minutes before this, but I feel privileged to be here. Like I said, people and gratitude are at the heart of everything that I do, and that's what I learned as a child, as a young adult, and that continues to be one of the core values that we hold even in my professional life. That precious desire to make a positive difference in people's lives is what being in human resources means to me. And I've always really loved and wanted to be an HR professional. I grew up in Mysore, and I come from a humble middle class family with the usual values of doing the right things and being honest and caring for people. I think that those are things that was always there as core values that I grew up with. I've also been fortunate to have worked in organizations which have kept the same values for people and the goals that they have. I'm a very non-traditional HR. I studied psychology because I really wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and I felt that psychology eventually led me to HR because that allowed me to do this not only for the people but also the families that they hold. So I worked in multiple roles. I started off as a hiring professional, and I really enjoy what I do because you get to meet people. You really can tell stories. You connect them with their dreams and aspirations through the careers that you can give them. You definitely can be a very positive influence in shaping a person's personality, not only their career. So that's why I love being in HR. I started my journey with a small organization called Pinnacle India. And I don't know the courage that they had at the time, but fresh graduate from college was given the opportunity to explore anything that I wanted to do, but just to make Pinnacle a home for a lot of people. And that journey continued with Symphony for a few years, and then with VMware, and now with Razorpay. While this entire journey has been personally very satisfying for me, because of the role that I am in, and how my profession allows me to do something that I really enjoy, I've never felt like I've gone to work on any day. It has always been an extension to who I am. And while every other organization did allow me to experiment, I think the closest that I got to feeling at home was and continues to be Razorpay. People focus, yes, but then there is a sense of belonging. There's a sense of ownership, because there's a lot of care and concern for people. There's a lot of humanization to how we operate at Razorpay. And the people that I work with, and the people who are at Razorpay, always strive for excellence. There's this environment that gets created automatically where we come together to solve a problem for one purpose. But we can do all of that because there's a lot of care for people as people, and not as employees, or about what you could do for Razorpay. The perspective is very different. So very happy to share my thoughts on this segment specifically, because this is something that we really strive hard to keep at it at all times. And we want to make sure that the experience is right for every person who we associate with, as an employee, as customers, as merchants, as clients, whoever that is. We want to make sure that Razorpay as an organization is always known to bringing this sense of care and belonging at Razorpay. So that's me, Ashish.
That's so wonderful. And in fact, when you were talking, the only thought came in my mind is one of my professors at Harvard, a very esteemed gentleman called Mr. Bill George, and he wrote a book called Follow Your True North. He is very, very acclaimed. And it seems that you have found your true north in Razorpay and the work that you do. And that's why it seems like an extension to your own self. And it's just a wonderful thought. Takeaway for our audience. Now I'm going to pose some interesting questions. The first, of course, you care for people, but the speed at which the technology disruption and the customer adoption has happened in the last 2 years is mind-boggling, right? No organization was ready for this kind of. But what changes are you contemplating to keep your employees safe in this world? So a fast-paced environment, but you still have to keep your employees safe. What are you contemplating? What did you do in the last 2 years?
So Razorpay has grown phenomenally. Since inception. Growth, I don't think it was unexpected, but the pandemic accelerated a lot of it for us. With this growth, the acceleration to adapt to the new environment. And this has not been easy for traditional customer-facing roles where travel and in-person meetings, socializing, these were key aspects to succeed. That's what people look. Everything stopped. We are a tech company, yes, but we did not escape this problem. Today, with the world slowly opening up after nearly 2 years, there are still deep-rooted fears that is existent in people. Most have gone through, I think, the trauma of COVID. They've seen it in close quarters. Some have even lost loved ones in the process. It's not only them; it's their families also that have suffered through this entire pandemic, and they've seen struggles that we were not really prepared for. These were uncharted territories for us. So this trauma and the fears that were there, I think it was very fresh. It is still very fresh in people's mind. And I think the need for physical, mental, and emotional support has become extremely important today. That sense of being cared for comes not just when you support somebody physically, when you're not just sharing workload with someone. It's about that concept of empathy, the ability to see each other as people and care for them. I think this overall concept of well-being and the acceptance of the need for emotional, mental wellness, I think that's the biggest change that I see in today's world. And we today are gearing up for it more than ever. We have in the last year and a half, we've already introduced several new concepts which have I think transformed the way the industry itself is looking at wellness. And we've had the ability to inspire a lot of organizations to think of their people with a more human angle to it. If I could quote an example for that, I think wellness leaves has been one of the most rewarding personally and professionally and satisfying initiatives that we've been able to do. This negative connotation around sick leaves, and just taking that out and calling them wellness leaves and making sure that people take this not only from an aspect of physical illness that people feel, sometimes small things like burnout, screen fatigue, these are real.
Yeah.
And these wellness leaves can address even those. So while we've taken several initiatives around this for me is the closest, because I think this is a new perspective to life, and this is, I think, industry changing in some way, which will impact a lot of lives, which is really what we want to do at the end of it.
So if I understand it clearly, you don't call it sick leave anymore, you call it wellness leave.
No, we don't have the concept of sick leaves anymore.
You don't have
wellness leaves, because sick leave somewhere only talks about physical ailments that people have, but wellness is more a positive connotation, and it is.
And then you encourage people to take it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and no questions asked. You could call in. No. You could call in for a wellness leave on Friday, and you don't even have to give a reason. It could be burnout, it could be screen fatigue. You might even want to rejuvenate by taking maybe a few extra hours of sleep.
Correct. Yeah, why not? Good sleep is always very important. Yeah, perfect. And while these are things that you've observed and made changes at your end, what trends you saw in the employees, in their own behavior, especially in their own acknowledgement of risk and fulfilling their part of commitment?
Yeah. So I think our ability to, as an organization, to put our people first, this is what will drive employee behavior. I think the pandemic in a lot of ways made us self-aware of several aspects of it. The trends that I personally saw are more, again, these are behaviors that stood out for me. Empathy and care. I think this is at the core of everything in a lot of ways, for not only for the self but for the team. I think the I has largely vanished, and it's very we, and it comes very easily and naturally to people today. I have not seen employees talking about, I want this anymore. It's more around, we need to do this because this is right for us as an organization, as a team, as a set of people working together on that. Earlier, it used to be that I think I need this for my team. I think that has extended to beyond to their teams, to the organization itself. I think that's a fantastic change that I've noticed. Personal safety and hygiene. There's a lot of self-awareness around that. I don't think people ever gave a lot of importance to hygiene at all, especially if you were on the move all the time and you're living out of a suitcase. It was it was work, work, and work all the time, right? And I don't think anyone looked at it that way. And people didn't adapt to technology really well either. And while there were segments of people who were looking at it, this accelerated it and suddenly got everyone together. And technology became a friend. It's no longer something that you're scared of. It's no longer something that you don't want to do. It's more something that's easy and it's coming naturally to you. Then I think acceptance of mental and emotional well-being. It was always about physical well-being, if it was there, right? And that also was very sporadic. Acceptance of mental and emotional well-being, and the ability to accept that you needed that as well, and your ability to be open about your need for it. I think that is another very very crucial change that the pandemic did. I think especially in India, while I think in the Western world, a lot of people gave importance to mental and emotional well-being. Somewhere in India, I don't think that was really something that was as widespread. There was still a stigma around it. So I think that went away.
Big time. I think talking about, in fact, when pre-pandemic, even saying that I'm stressed and I can't work or I want to take an off wasn't a very welcome statement by the team. People think twice, and largely because everybody worked hard to have both ends meet. People have aspiration, and we are a very hardworking society.
Trying to stay strong, right? I mean, somehow the ability to deal with these things became the strength. But yeah, it's okay to say that we're all human beings, right? At the end of it.
Absolutely. So that behavior is definitely I'm also witnessing out in the market. People are pretty open about this, and and it's wonderful if you have an organization culture which is not talking any more about I, it is talking more about we. That's really, kudos to the management team to build a culture like that. It takes years. And for a new company like Razorpay, relatively new, I'm not saying you guys are new, but relatively new organization like Razorpay, to build that culture and speed, especially with the speed at which you guys are growing. It talks a lot about commitment, and it takes a lot of management bandwidth to build this kind of culture. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm sure all of you.
Yeah. And I think the last thing, Ashish, that I think that personally makes me very happy is, earlier it used to be just work and life in some way, right? But today I think there's balance to work, life, family, and self. So that's a very interesting trend that I see, and for the good. Some way it looks like we are growing up really fast, and we owe it to the pandemic that
I think it has allowed everybody to sort of just step back and say, why was I doing what I was doing? What was the purpose of doing that? And if this sort of maturity is into our employee base now or our colleagues now, then for sure that we have to relook at all the processes from a very different prism. Because till now, all organizations operated on efficiency zone. So focus was largely on how can I make more or produce more in the most cost-effective and efficient manner. And machines, obviously, or technology was given priority over people. But I think what pandemic has done has got people first. And, interesting, good trends, very good trends. Thank you for that takeaway. So now my question linking it to travel is, now most of your people would start traveling, right? Business travel is about to come back and it is slowly opening up. So what sort of policies and trends have you put in place just to make sure that your employees are safe when they're doing business travel?
So I think in the last 2 months, travel has I think picked up by about 20% from the last month. At least that's what I've seen. In the last 2 quarters, I think it's slowly inching towards opening up a little more. With the changing times and most of us opting to work in a hybrid model, that itself will pose a lot of challenges. Traditional companies and roles, they will still want to work traditionally, right? And I think this this wanting to work traditionally is also largely driven by the clients, by the merchants, by the customers, all of them. Limiting travel in these scenarios will become difficult because I think sales folks and customer facing roles as a personality, they draw from each other's presence. They draw energies from each other. They draw energies from being in a social environment. They thrive in that kind of a situation, and it allows them to be natural in their ability to do their job in the best way that they know how to do it. They've adapted well to the scenarios, to the circumstances, but I think they still want to. They're itching to get back to traveling, to meeting people, to socializing, all of that. However, making sure that we are pragmatic and plan our travels well, and avoiding unnecessary trips, that is for trivial stuff. And if it could be something that that can be done over a call or over a virtual meeting or a virtual hangout, I think those are some of the trends that are emerging as part of how travel is opening up and how people are looking at it. Earlier, I think the other aspect is that it's more, I think, thought out and more carefully laid out and structured plans these days than, you just having the ability to, have a packed suitcase all time and pick it up and just get to the airport. I don't think it works that way anymore. And I don't think people want to do that either. And we discourage that at work. Again, for us, there are a lot of guidance that we provide to our people around how we want them to travel, around how we want them to be safe at all times, because it's not just them. They are, it's one, of course, we deeply care for our employees, but it's also about a sense of responsibility towards your community, sense of responsibility towards your employees' families, to the friends, etc. So we are still, while we are not discouraging any travel, and we are not limiting it to anything, we are educating them to be pragmatic. See, we deal with adults, and we need to. It's not about always telling people about what they need to do. It's more about telling them what is the right and the wrong, and allow them to make the choice. So for us, these are the guidance that we are following, but without losing sight of being cautious, maintaining protocols, ensuring safety measures are never deviated from, and at all times. I think it's absolutely important and necessary that we call out the community responsibilities that we have, the family responsibilities that we have, the social responsibilities, etc. After all, it's our people, right? And we care about them, about their families and their safety, etc. And that's the org behavior that I'm talking about. With that, I think employees on their own, they become self-aware and they take ownership of that.
Okay, understood. And there are new technologies which allow you to track your people, especially when they're on business travel, so that in case of any emergency, you can sort of provide them with assistance and all. Have you guys, what's your view on those sort of technologies? Because they're sort of also infringing into, personal space. So what's your thought and take on that? Because that's a very important topic to discuss.
Yeah. See, personal space is personal space, definitely. We want to maintain boundaries there. So if you're with your family, we don't want to track you. But if you're on a work-related travel, you're obviously our responsibility. And it does not matter about what gender it is. It's important, because at the end of the day, these are people. So it definitely helps to have that. We have to watch out for each other, especially in these uncertain times. You don't know what's happening, right? And this is what is called care and belonging. You don't feel like somebody's infringing into your personal space if someone in your family did that. But work is a family too, at the end of the day. You might not have that for all of the employees, but then within your own teams, you have those friends who you're comfortable sharing the space with. And we want to make sure that it is available for people to use it as as they seem fit for themselves. And I think any unit will work well when supported and cared for. And changing workplaces and workspaces are all about this, right? Caring for people. So it's, yeah, I feel it's very necessary to have the ability to track them. Whether you do it or not is a different thing, but the option should always be there.
These technologies are obviously important because they let you know where your people are. And, from the organization side, your responsibility, your duty of care has to be fulfilled. But of course, it moves into a different direction. So technology is definitely moved into that space where we can offer such elements to you. Very interesting. Okay, good. Do we have any questions to take right now? I think we are on top of hour as far as our conversation is concerned.
Yes, Ashish, I think maybe, we get to, maybe moderator can probably help with what are the, takeaways while I kind of pull in the questions.
Excellent. So Anuradha, I think what we would do is as we close the session and take the questions that Brijesh is sort of consolidating, I would like you to share the key takeaways with our, attendees so that they can take these thoughts back and implement in their work. This has been our trend. We give, solid takeaways for people to take back and deliver. So we'd love to hear your take backs.
See, in a lot of ways, I think being human is very important, and establish a sense of care and concern for people is important. You should know your boundaries, definitely, but I think care and humanization in a lot of ways, I think it's underrated. For me, that's one of the most important pieces of how you're going to operate in a new space, and how can we as organizations enable these. That's what is I think predominantly the way forward, and that's what is also my my view and what I've also noticed these days. So that, and how do you enable technology to help you do all of this? And how do you continue to keep technology as a friend? And it's no longer, one size fits all. It never was, but I think that was the trend in which we were operating. It's more to do with personalization today. It's more to do with tailoring needs for each of these people, because each person is different. There are largely foundational aspects that will be similar, but I think the needs for each are different. How are you able to do that? Keeping technology and enabling technology for that to happen. Yeah, I think we need to take ownership of ourselves, right? If we don't care for us, who will? So first and foremost is to be our own boss, and make sure that we are healthy, and ensure that it's an overall well-being. It's not just about being physically fit. It's not just about being physically active, but how you're able to succeed by having a balance to everything: physical, mental, and emotional well-being. I think those are new ways of how we will operate, not just in our workspace, but even in our lives. So
that's wonderful. Thank you very much. These are very important takeaways, and I'm sure our audience and participants would love to sort of take them back and put them into practice. Please do. These are very nice, and I would say words of wisdom in today's world. So excellent.
Just one question to Anuradha. Talk about personalization, Anuradha. How do you kind of handle or deal the varied requirements of your employees who travel regularly? Because every employee will have their own unique requirement. I mean, it's not true in a generic sense, but you will have that percentage of employees who would have a different set of requirements while on travel. So how do you handle that?
Technology, British. I think that's what is the key to be able to do all of this, right? It makes it a lot easier for us to deal with people's needs. You don't have to remember this anymore. Technology will allow you to say and tell us what you want, and it will even record it for you. If you're doing with your own memory, there's only so much you could do when you have a very large base. When you have about 50, 100 odd people, it's easy. You remember most of it. And there's one person who can do that. And technology will bring down errors. Are we dependent on that? Yes, but it's okay to be dependent on some of these things if it makes our lives easier. And if it gives us the value for it. And I think technology is the way forward.
Sure, thanks, Anuradha. The other question is, you did mention that you are seeing a 20% increase month on month in the travel that's happening at your end at Razorpay. Do you foresee this increasing in a similar pattern going forward? And if so, then the concept of employee safety and duty of care, is Razorpay currently equipped if travel kind of returns, let's assume for a moment, to pre-COVID levels? Then is the organization equipped to deal with employee safety and other aspects, which has become all the more paramount now in the post-pandemic scenario?
Yeah, from last quarter to this quarter, we saw about 20% raise in travel, not only from a work perspective, but also from a personal perspective. Are we equipped? Yes, we are, because we believe that each person understands and realizes their responsibility. And like I said, we are an organization which gives a lot of freedom to people. But what we do is we educate them well. We educate them on how they are supposed to be, what are the different protocols, and we help and assist them with all of this. But the onus is on the person to take care of themselves. We can only enable and support this. And we are equipped because we have the right kind of partners, we have the right kind of staff to be able to also support some of these needs internally. So yeah, we would love to have people do what they like to do best and operate the way they want to.
Wonderful, Anuradha. Thanks. Next question, I think it's more relevant, and I would pose it to Ashish. Ashish, do you see business travel growing in the coming year? Now that with double vaccination, state-wise guidelines being standardized and countries opening up, what is the prediction on business travel? Ashish, if you would take that, and then if Anuradha, if you would like to add any points from your side, please feel free to.
So I think, month on month, there has been an increase in travel. It started with the leisure or personal travel first, but now soon, and there is an increasing trend that corporates are pretty open about people traveling. There's still an air of being conscious about this because duty of care as a responsibility is very large with most of the corporates. So they're going slow about it. I think the first people-facing roles will start traveling. And then once we will go a couple of more months into that process, then the rest of organization team meetings would kickstart, followed by then obviously normalization of travel. So 22 should see a fairly large increase of travel in terms of which would keep all of us busy. 23, 24 is when I see if no pandemic returns, then 23 should be a wonderful year for the travel industry. And, in general for everybody, I think 23, 24 for all industries should be very good. 22, I think we still be in the phase of opening up. And rather, your call.
I think 22 will all be about personal travel. People are itching to go and see places that they haven't been able to. And I think there will be an equal raise in business travel as well, because again, people are waiting to meet their partners, their clients, their customers. and give them the personal touch that that the virtual environment need not necessarily be able to fulfill completely. So I see a trend that's going to pick up, but I agree with you, Ashish. I think 23 and 24 is where I think it's likely to return to closer to pre-COVID normalcy that it used to be.
Absolutely. But yeah, organizations would remain a bit safe. And that's where duty of care becomes so important topic right now.
Yeah.
That how do I open up my policies? And some of the takeaways that we take from this conversation is just really wonderful. So thank you very much, Anuradha, for your thoughts and sharing with us of what activities you've taken place at Razorpay. I would take back the wellness leave as a learning from this session. Wonderful. It never occurred to me, and it's just such a wonderful connotation. It's such a positive connotation to something that we've been, part of our contract for so many years. So lovely, and I would also congratulate Razorpay team to have you at the helm of people function. So well done, congratulations, and it's a pleasure talking to you.
Same here, Ashish, and thanks for your kind words. Like I said, if we can touch more lives with how workspaces can be relooked at, reimagined, and bring in a more human angle to it, I think it's time to give back to the society, and that's what is more important. But thank you very much.
Lovely, pleasure. Thank you very much, and bye. Thank you everyone for attending the session. I hope you guys took a lot from this session, and look forward to my 4th session next month. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening to all of you. Bye.